All right, well, we are gonna go drive off to the Tesla Supercharger in Parsippany, which actually says it's closed right now, so I'm gonna check out what's going on there. But as we're driving there, I wanted to talk about the biggest news of, I don't know, ever, in the EV world at least, where not only did Ford announce that they are going to be adopting the Tesla North American charging standard, but just last night, GM CEO Mary Berry went on a Twitter space with Elon and announced that GM is also going to be transitioning to the, what is effectively the Tesla standard. And, you know, with the two of those happening, basically, the EV charging standard war is over and Tesla won. So stick with me and we're going to talk about that and what I think it means for the future.
That's right.
Alright, so you've probably seen a ton of videos out already, at least after the announcement that Ford made. But, you know, I didn't want to put one out right away because I wanted to think a little bit about it and kind of see what ended up happening, because I had a feeling that the second Ford announced that they would be adopting Tesla's charging, that that'd basically be the first of many dominoes to fall and a bunch of other manufacturers would follow. But GM wasn't really one that I had at the top of my list that I thought would be happening. So kind of a little bit surprised by that, but you know, now with two of the biggest auto manufacturers, and certainly the two of the absolute biggest ones in North America deciding to go this way, I think basically, you know, it's done now, and it's only a matter of time before Tesla really just becomes the single standard, at least across North America. So so in Europe, kind of the opposite is true. They mandated the standard and decided on CCS, a little bit different than US. It's type 2 one. Yeah, just a little bit different in Europe because of the different standards that they have there. But the US kind of seemed like they were gonna, you know, wait and allow competition to kind of determine what would end up being the standard rather than mandating it. And, you know, it looks pretty clear now that CCS has lost. And of course, you know, this is in large part due to just the difference in reliability and maintenance and scaling of the different fast charging networks. So on the one hand, Tesla, they've been in the game for about a decade now with superchargers, and they've just done such a great job of rolling them out, keeping them updated, and keeping them online. Whereas in the CCS world, you have, you know, a bunch of different competing charge point operators, but you know, probably the most well-known, one of the bigger ones, and you know, certainly the one that's been more affiliated with several different car brands, especially like a lot of the German ones, is Electrify America. And Electrify America in particular, I just think has done not the best job. And you can see this in, you know, reports out of PlugShare and Rate Your Charge, which has been doing great stuff to keep track of all of this. But really, you know, EA has just had so many issues in keeping their sites online, giving you reliable charging power. You know, even when chargers are online, it's just so often that they're at reduced power rates. And so many times, you know, that at least one, if not, you know, a considerable amount of the site will be offline and just unusable. And so because of that lack of reliability, you know, you just can't have confidence in that charging network. And so, you know, you compare that to Tesla, which I think is at the far end of it, and you know, basically you go to a Tesla supercharging site and pretty much every single charger is going to be available. It's very rare that you even see one offline, but if it is, you know, it's clearly marked through the software here, and you know, when they are down, it's very quick that they end up getting repaired. So Tesla's obviously got some, you know, great technology on the back end to detect when there's issues, to mark them offline, and then to quickly get, you know, a tech out to maintain them and bring them back online. So it's very rare to see, you know, any lengthy or even extensive charger outages on the Tesla network. So as a result of that, basically, whenever you're driving a Tesla, you know, kind of doing a road trip is like so pain-free and just so easy. You don't even have to think about anything. You just know it's going to work. And I think as a result of that, the consumers have spoken, and companies like Ford and GM have heard that. They listen to their customers pretty well, and are just hearing all of the complaints around the unreliability of the CCS network. And so they went pretty big, and I've got to give a big hand to Ford and GM for making what I'm sure was a very difficult decision, and basically admitting defeat and joining up with a major competitor who they still continue to trail, but it is for the best of their customers, and I think it's going to only help those brands in the long term. And so as a result of that, basically what's happening, both companies are kind of following a very similar plan. So Ford and GM both announced that starting in 2024, so in the springtime, I believe, both will be, or they'll be offering an adapter to their existing customers that'll work with the existing cars and allow them to plug into the Tesla chargers. So it's not totally clear yet, like who's providing the adapter, if you're gonna have to buy it, what cars it's gonna work with, how far back in time it'll go, and exactly like what's going to be required in terms of the chargers and like software and stuff to make all of that work. But their goal is to get it out to the vast majority of their customers very quickly, or at least make it available to them. And then in 2025, they're actually going to start rolling out cars that have the Tesla North American charging standard, NACS charger built right in. So, or I should say charging port. And I think that these are, only really going to be sort of the, I can't say tip of the iceberg anymore, like these are pretty monumental, but I think you're going to see a whole lot of additional manufacturers now, both in the car and even on the charging side, start following suit. So we have already seen now, basically in the past 24 hours, that First Flow, which is a Canadian, Quebec-based charge point operator and manufacturer of chargers, announced that they are going to start producing chargers that use the NACS charging port. And EVgo has actually already been doing it. They were kind of the, I don't know if they're exactly the first, but the first that I've seen outside of Tesla that made fast chargers that have the Tesla plug on them. They're a little bit less high power than the Tesla Superchargers, but you still run into those sometimes at rest stops and in places which are convenient to have. So it's pretty cool actually that this is not going to be entirely limited to Tesla Superchargers, but obviously that that's the main draw and probably where most charging is going to occur. So then today, ABB, which is one of the largest manufacturers of charging equipment, and actually like the main sponsor of the Formula E electric car racing series, they announced that they are going to start producing chargers that utilize the North American charging standard as well. So I don't know yet exactly how high powered those are going to be. Again, I suspect that those will probably not quite match at least like the V3 Tesla Superchargers in terms of pure output. But good to see at least that they're starting to adapt that, and that we're going to have some choices in competition around the actual chargers themselves. Now, neither company said necessarily that they were going to stop with CCS, so ABB operates worldwide, so it's important for them to continue manufacturing CCS chargers as well for the non-North American markets. But they are going to be producing ones that use a Tesla plug now too, which is great. So both Ford and GM are also going to be enabling this through their respective apps and software suites. So with Ford, you'll use the Ford Pass app to utilize the chargers. With GM, they have their Ultium Charge 360 app. And it's not, I'm not sure exactly like how that's going to work. You basically just like authenticate and authorize and pay through there. Is there going to be any sort of plug-in charge through these adapters, or when it's built into the car like Tesla has? Like that is one of the big advantages with the Tesla and the Tesla Supercharging network. Also, is just how simple it is. You just plug straight in. You don't have to worry about like authenticating with an app or putting your credit card in or anything like that. It just starts charging and you get billed on the back end. So I would love to see that coming, but they haven't been clear about that yet. And then interestingly, Ford said that this is going to be on 12,000 Tesla chargers. And there are many more than that in the US, so I don't know exactly why it's limited to 12,000 chargers. Maybe that's how many like V3 ones there are. Or maybe what they're actually going to be doing is waiting for the rollout of V4. And maybe they plan that by 2025 when this is going to fully roll out, there would be 12,000 of those. Or like, you know, they're just kind of picking and choosing them, sort of like what they're doing with Magic Dock. That's not really clear yet either. So yeah, this speaking of Magic Dock, this does kind of raise some questions around like what that rollout's going to be now. So when Magic Dock started rolling out, you know, it seemed like it was going to be a pretty quick adoption. We saw about 10, maybe 12 superchargers available, you know, to charge on the Magic Dock with any CCS car. And most of those are sort of in the upstate New York area, and a few in California. But it's been a while now and we haven't seen any more added to that, and so the rollout's been very slow, and now I kind of wonder if, you know, maybe this is a factor with that. So with the other car manufacturers being able to use the Tesla network, there's not as much incentive to Tesla for, you know, doing this Magic Dock thing, because they're actually going to be eligible for the infrastructure tax incentive stuff, because it's now considered an open charging network since more than one manufacturer's cars can run on it. Now, I don't think that they're going to kill the Magic Dock program entirely, because they did announce that in partnership with the White House, and there's some like promises and stuff in there that I don't know if they can really walk away from or if they want to. But I think if anything, it just means that the Magic Dock rollout is not going to be, you know, kind of their like primary way of extending this out to other cars now. I think they're going to, you know, want to try to incentivize other manufacturers to move on to the Tesla standard as well. So we'll see like if any additional locations actually get added with Magic Dock now. So you know, it makes me wonder kind of who's going to be the next manufacturer to adopt this now. So I think now with GM coming along here, I would not be surprised to see some of the smaller manufacturers following suit. So Rivian and Lucid definitely stand out to me as potential ones here. So Lucid would be interesting because all they'd really have to do is like retool their manufacturing, and they could just do the same thing and do an adapter for, you know, a couple of years or something. So that seems like pretty obvious to me. Then with Rivian, they can really kind of, you know, get away with doing the same thing. I think the main challenge for them is, you know, they just started building out this Rivian Adventure network, and they've got a handful of sites up now, and they use CCS. So, you know, there's not like a huge amount of investment that's already gone into it, although, you know, they are putting a lot of money into like starting to build it out now. So I think this would actually be the right time for them to decide if they're going to change or not. They should either do it now and, you know, start building out the sites and maybe even just retrofitting the handful of them with the NACS plugs, or decide that they're not going to and just stick with CCS. But it seems like now is better than waiting a few months to do it. And then after that, I think the big question is sort of, you know, what are the Korean manufacturers, especially like Hyundai Group, going to do? And then what will the Germans do? So in my opinion, I would expect like Volkswagen probably to be the very last one to change. They are, you know, the owners and, you know, basically mandated to build out the Electrify America network. So, you know, and a lot of money has gone into building that out with CCS. You could argue maybe not enough money has gone into actually building it out, and certainly not enough money has gone into keeping them well maintained. But you know, it is a considerable cost that they put into it. So I'd be very surprised to see them change. Plus, they'd basically then have to start producing you know, 2 variants of their cars. I mean, which they kind of already do, but one for, you know, worldwide and one for North America with the different ports. So Tesla actually already does that, because in Europe and China they use CCS also. But you know, basically it'd be a change to the way that the Germans have to manufacture this stuff. Could just add some cost to them without necessarily adding, you know, what they perceive as a lot of benefit, even though their customers might see that benefit. But I could see the Hyundai Motor Group potentially being the next sort of, you know, big one to go here. And if they do it, like, not only is this this war over, like, it's basically, you know, CCS is dead at that point. And I wouldn't be all that surprised to see them follow. There's really, you know, they're not as heavily invested in like any sort of charging network infrastructure. And I think, you know, they really probably just want to do the best thing for their customers. Would require probably some changes to the underlying EGMP platform that they use, just because of the voltage and the those are higher voltage cars than Tesla and like basically anything else that's out there right now, other than Lucid and Rivian and a few of the GMC ones. It would be like a little bit of a change for them, I think, to be able to do that. Although, you know, they are able to like step down to it now. It's just that their charging is much slower. And part of the big kind of benefit in advertising feature that you know they prioritize with the Hyundai Motor Group cars on the GMP platform is just that rapid charging rate, where you can go from what is it, 10 or 20% to 80% in under 20 minutes. So they just have to figure out a way around that. But I could certainly see them coming next. Yeah, so I think, you know, overall, this is obviously a huge win for the customers of each of those manufacturers, because they're going to have much more reliable charging now on, you know, the fast charging network of Tesla. It's a big win for Tesla as a company and brand, and especially as a energy supplier. They're going to make a ton of money now off of, you know, providing electricity and you know, billing customers to be able to use those chargers. All right, well, we're here at the charger, and it looks like they're actually installing a bunch of new chargers maybe here. We got a bunch with the little wrappy things on here, and all of the other ones are cordoned off right now. So let's just see what's going on here. And of course there are cars icing it right now. Unbelievable, no matter where you go. So there we go. All Hondas. But yeah, looks like they've got some techs here working on it, and certainly a lot of work going on here. Oh, they've expanded this site for sure. This is much bigger than it was before. Still a V2 though, it looks like, because we've got paired ones here, but it looks like maybe the new one's going in. Yeah, those are skinnier cables, so it looks like they're expanding this with some V3 here. So that's great to see. And I didn't need to charge anyway, I just wanted to check it out. So that's pretty cool. Looks like massively expanding the site. So yeah, I mean, that just, you know, that's a big part of the benefit here too, is look just how fast Tesla is building out their network. So, you know, I think a lot of Tesla customers might be concerned about this and what it's going to mean for them in their charging. You know, the rate that Tesla is just expanding their network here is just so far and above all of the other ones that we'll have to see if this actually becomes a problem. Yeah, so I know you hear you know, so much around just like how much this is going to add congestion, and you know, we're going to have so many more cars here. There'll be Fords and Chevys and Hummers taking up these spots now, and increasing the wait for Tesla drivers. But you know, I think honestly, like, we've got to wait and see. There are not nearly as many of those cars on the road as there are you know, Teslas, especially Model 3s and Ys now. And so you know, it's a real question mark still whether those are gonna, you know, start clogging these stations up and add wait times or not. And if anything, you know, I think that what is actually going to happen is you know, Tesla's going to have so much more income now, or revenue now, from their charging network, that they're going to be able to afford to continue to expand it out and just increase the rate that they are doing that. So I'm not that worried about it, to be honest. Now, granted, here in the Northeast, we don't have, you know, the long wait times that you get out in like California and kind of along the West Coast quite as much. You know, I've been starting to see them a little bit more, but it's mostly like on long weekends and, you know, popular travel times and stuff. You know, so it's a little bit of a concern, but I just think, you know, between the extra money now that Tesla's going to be making selling the, you know, actual energy to the users of those cars, the customers of those cars, as well as, you know, it's not clear yet, like, exactly if Tesla's getting licensing fees or anything on these cars, but I'd imagine, you know, that there's a good possibility of that. And I would have to think that there's probably a decent chance that they have some sort of licensing agreement on the manufacturing of the chargers that EVgo and ABB and Flow are going to be doing, and I'm sure many others now too. So, you know, they're going to have some additional revenue streams now that they didn't have before. And I think, you know, a lot of that is going to go back into investment in building out this network now. So, you know, it's officially like now going to be the true North American charging network. And so, you know, it's going to have to keep expanding and, you know, getting bigger and keeping up with the increased number of EVs that are on the road now. But yeah, I mean, I think really what this also symbolizes here is a pretty major shift in what Tesla is as a company. So, you know, they've always said that they're not just about cars, they're about providing sustainable energy solutions for the world and advancing the rate at which we can move to those sustainable solutions. And so, you know, that's where things like the Tesla solar roof, the all of the battery storage from the storage that you can get in your own home to all the way up to like the mega packs that they have all come into play. And you know, I think really this symbolizes just a shift from Tesla being, you know, really what's perceived as a car company to becoming a energy and charging company. So I mean, obviously, you know, they've had both before, but I think you're just going to see a massive expansion in the way that Tesla is able to build this stuff out, to, you know, continue research and development in it, and really be the leader in a lot of sustainable energy solutions, and being the, you know, go-to network for EV charging. So what'll be interesting to see is, you know, how that advances over the next few years. So I think, you know, Tesla's going to keep selling a ton of cars. Like, they're by far the most popular EVs out there now. They're among the most popular cars overall that are being sold right now. And especially, you know, with the prices of the Model 3 and Y right now, it's obvious why. Like, they're super compelling cars at the cost. But like, you know, now there are some more compelling reasons to you know, consider a Ford or GM now too, if you were worried, or if one of the reasons you didn't consider before was the charging network and the reliability and just usability of those on road trips. I know it was a factor for us when we ultimately decided not to take delivery of the Mustang Mach-E that we had ordered, and it's a concern that we have, you know, getting our Rivian as well. So you know, I expect that it's going to help those companies sell even more cars, and you'll see more of those on the road too. But now, you know, Tesla really can continue to focus on the charging and energy itself. So I think, you know, you're going to see big expansion of the network. Of course, you're going to see a lot more advertising and probably rollout of products like the solar roof and the battery packs. I think, you know, this mega pack charger that they've got. So, you know, during wildfire season, which is, you know, becoming a bigger thing everywhere around the world, including here, where we just had, you know, the past week, the sky was orange and you couldn't see, you know, more than a few hundred feet on some days. But during wildfire season out in Australia, they deployed this mega pack battery where they can basically store energy from the energy producers when they are able to produce it, and then you know, when usage is way up and there are blackouts, they can use these batteries to actually you know, offset that and to provide energy back into the grid. So that's really cool to see, and I bet that program is going to expand considerably as, you know, we continue to have challenges with wildfires, you know, even across the U.S., and you know, power supply itself is going to become more and more difficult as the demands grow and as we have more challenges as the climate changes. So it'll be really cool to see, you know, how that changes. And then I think the big area that is kind of untapped for Tesla right now is in vehicle to load and vehicle to grid. So Tesla, so far at least, you know, hasn't really indicated much in terms of what their strategy around that is. And you see, you know, some smaller use cases with like Hyundai, where you have these vehicle to load solutions that you can plug a little adapter into your charge port and you know, power appliances and stuff off of there. You see much bigger applications of it with things like the Ford F-150 Lightning, where you can actually plug it in back into your house and power your house off of it. And I would not be at all surprised to see Tesla you know, start to make some advances in that world too. I mean, just with the sheer number of Tesla vehicles and soon to be cars capable of utilizing the Tesla chargers, you know, like, these are all pretty massive battery packs that a lot of times are sitting at a, you know, relatively moderate to high state of charge, and not consuming energy and just kind of sitting there. And it could become a way for us to solve some of the energy challenges that we've got in the world, or at least, kind of balance out the usage versus the supply of energy. So that would be really cool to see. Like, basically, can Tesla become, or the network of Tesla vehicles out there become the largest battery capacity management solution in the world? So one other thing that I think is a consideration here is, I'm very interested to see also what Ford and GM do around their own ability to control charging and the network and just the end customer experience around charging. So I have to think that, they're not going to be super happy to just entirely hand over control of all charging and like the software around it and the payment and everything entirely to Tesla. They've got to be thinking about that. So, Ford's kind of an interesting case. They seem like, they're generally okay to kind of hand over control of things that they don't believe they are, the best at, and really kind of focus on things like the driving experience and building a, great, reliable car at an affordable price. You've already seen them adopt Android Auto and CarPlay and kind of seed that, media experience to their customers, or seed it to Apple and Google, who they know can do a good job for their customers. And they've even made announcements about shifting to Android Automotive, which still hasn't happened, but they are pledged to do that. So they certainly don't seem to be too afraid to at least hand over some control. But GM's kind of on the other side of that. They announced that they are going to be getting rid of CarPlay in their car, and basically building their own ground-up entertainment stack, so that they can be in control of that entire experience, because they think that they can provide the best experience for their customers. Now, I'm not at all convinced about that, but they seem to think that it is the case. So because of that, I think it would be very, very surprising to see GM not take the same stance when it comes to charging. So I think that they're going to want to have some sort of experience, at least over the sort of back end and back end architecture and services that Tesla provides for the charging. Maybe that is just through their app that allows you to find chargers and like pay for them, or maybe something entirely different that basically adds a layer there that they can control on top of it. And I would certainly expect both companies and any others that follow to want to have a seat at the table when it comes to making decisions about how the network is going to be advanced over time. So that'll be interesting to see. I wonder also, like, how much Tesla will start kind of making design decisions around their network to accommodate the EV platforms from Ford and GM. So, with things like the Hummer and, kind of that higher voltage architecture version of the Ultium platform that GM is doing, what will Tesla do there? Because right now, the V3 chargers, at least, are not capable of outputting that voltage. And when you use a Magic Dock, you get very slow charging rates for a Hummer EV. So it'll be interesting to see, what they end up doing in the long term around that as well, especially like if you have sort of divergent architectures between Tesla and these other companies using their standard. So it'll be interesting to see how that works, and it'll also be very interesting to see how Tesla kind of prioritizes the Tesla experience over others. So in their announcement, Elon specifically said that they would not be prioritizing Tesla customers over others when it comes to the experience and the support. They didn't say anything about pricing, so that's very interesting, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Tesla basically get better pricing on the Tesla chargers, at least, versus the other ones. Maybe something kind of like what Electrify America does, where they have their cheaper member rate versus the normal rate, and where like that's only available for either Tesla customers or maybe like as a membership thing. So there were sort of some things that looked like they might be building toward that as they were doing the Magic Dock stuff. So that could be interesting to see, just like what they do to kind of maintain the premium experience for Tesla buyers while still providing a good experience for the others. But, it is going to be a bit of a change in mentality for Tesla, where they really have to think about all of the different customers of this charging network now, and not just, the 4 cars that Tesla makes, basically. All right, yeah, so I think, it's a very exciting time right now in the world of EVs. These are huge announcements, and I think, this is going to totally change the way that the EV rollout and world is going to look for the next, I mean, several years, foreseeable future, really. So now, you know, there's a lot less doubt around this rollout of EVs and the infrastructure behind it and how that's going to scale for everybody. I think honestly, just a lot of those concerns kind of go away now. Like, Tesla's done such a good job with all of this that they've earned the trust that they're going to be able to continue to scale it and provide an excellent experience. And look, we have a BMW iX here. Interesting choice. I wonder what they're going to think about this and their choice to get an EV that is going to be on essentially a sort of somewhat deprecated, or at least less heavily invested in charging standard now. So yeah, I mean, this is just absolutely massive, and you know, we've still got some time before we really see the repercussions of all of it, but I think it's just an incredibly exciting time as you know, someone super interested in EVs right now. So let me know in the comments below, are you a Tesla owner? How do you think this is going to affect you? Are you excited for this or not? Or are you a Ford or GM owner who might be a lot more excited now to have some additional options and a much better, reliable network? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. All right, well, with that, thanks for sticking around this long. I know it was a little bit of a long one, but I think there's just a lot to digest and think about here with these announcements. So with that, thanks so much for watching. Please do subscribe. I'm gonna try to bring some more of this type of news content, as well as a bunch of road trips we've got coming up, and hopefully get my hands on some of the newer EVs to review as well. So you don't want to miss any of that. All right, well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you out there on the road.